So for this one, this is the first assignment where you have to do the full problem with a check and no answers are given to you or anything like that, like yesterday's, where you just look on the column on the left and right to see if the answer's there. So this is the real deal. This is closer to what your quiz will be like. And so you want to be able to do all of these on your own, do a check, and see if you got the right answer. And if it's wrong, rework it. Okay. There is a new type of problem. It's still 2 steps. It's over here. Both these types of equations will be on your Khan Academy. Okay. So first, the review, number 1. Start on the side of the variable. Do the opposite. So it's -4. So you got to add 4 to both sides. And then 4 minus 4 equals 0. So every time you do something on both sides, something should be canceling out because that's the purpose. Right? And then we just simplify, write everything down, bring down what we didn't use. So we didn't use -9n, bring that straight down. You guys have seen this plenty of times. And then you can use a calculator. If they turn out to be fractions or anything difficult, you can do it without, that's fine. So -27. And of course, this means -9 times what is -27, so you have to divide by -9, right? So with the adding and subtracting, they're always different signs because you're trying to get 0. So one has to be positive, one has to be negative. But with the dividing, they're always the same sign because when you divide by itself, that's how you get +1. So the purpose of dividing is so you get the 1 n. Now we usually don't write the 1, we just put n. Okay? But it's a 1. Okay? And then on the right hand side, once again, you can use calculator if you need to, or to check your answer. -27 divided by -9 is positive. Okay? Alright, now the general name for this, when you do things on both sides, the general name for that is the name of the class. Algebra. Okay, so this is what we're really looking for. That you're proving and showing how you got your answer. Okay, that's the answer, right? So that's part of the problem. But you need to have the answer plus the algebra where you show both steps. Or, coming up today, it's going to be, well, actually later next week, there's going to be 3 steps and 4 steps. So this is required when I come around and check your works. I'm looking for this, that you did algebra on your algebra assignment. So if you don't have this, if I can't see something on both sides and something canceling, something on both sides and canceling, done vertically, top to bottom like that, you might need to fix a few things and redo it. Some people will have -9n equal -27, and they say, oh, the answer is 3. And they don't write any algebra, and they're like, okay, go back and do it. But I know what the answer is. Yeah, I know what the answer is too. It's 3. Write algebra. You have to write the work down. Okay, it's about proving your answer, not just getting the answer. Okay, that's what it's about. Let's see here. It's kind of like if you're one place, I'm at another. Okay, yeah, the answer is like, okay, you met up with me, you found me or something like that. But the question is, how'd you get here? What turns did you take to get here? I need to know that process. Not just, okay, you're here, but how did you get there? What are all the turns? How could you show somebody else? How could you write it down for somebody else to know how you did it? Okay, that's what you need there. All right, so that's review. You'll see in the directions it says you show a check on the odds. Okay. So for this one, since it's an odd number, 1, do a check. Okay. So we got -4 minus. I use parentheses wherever I'm plugging in my answer that I'm testing. I'm testing 3. And then do the order of operations to verify. So we got to multiply. So we got negative 4 minus 27. And negative 4 minus 27 is negative 31. And if you get the same answer on both sides, you know it's correct. If we got a different number here, you go back and you find a mistake. And you keep working on it, like you would on a quiz. So we saw on the quiz last week, if you did the checks properly, we had like, I don't know, like 10 or 12 100%. Because it's hard to get it wrong when you're checking your answer, so thoroughly, so closely. It's very hard to get it wrong. Can you get it wrong still? Yes, because there's some people, they just write down like, their answer, and they maybe got the wrong answer. They put down negative 6, like this, and then they say, oh, negative 31 equals negative 31. Yeah, I got it right. It's like, no, this does not actually equal negative 31. You can't just make up like, okay, it's done. You have to calculate this. Like, this is negative 9 times negative 6, which would be positive 54, and then 54 minus 4 would be 50. That doesn't equal negative 31, which means negative 6 is not the right answer. So if you actually do the checks properly, we had a lot of 100%. Most people got an A or a high B. That was like 80, 85% of everybody, did really good because they did the checks. So just keep doing that. Even when it doesn't tell you, you should kind of want to do this to get a high score. So how can you raise your grade in math? Check your answers. All right. The second type of problem is a little different, and there's two ways of doing it. I'm going to show you the two-step method. That's fast. It's probably something that you wouldn't think of, but this is on your Khan Academy assignment tomorrow, so I want to go over it. All right. So this means 4 times negative 8 plus k, right? So when they're just parentheses, that's multiplication. So you can get rid of that times 4 by dividing by 4. And it's kind of weird because usually we add subtract first, but because of the parentheses, it's a little different. So with solving equations, you do things in reverse. Okay? So it's usually parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, and then add subtract, right? But when you're doing solving, you're going actually backwards. You're going this way. And here we have two things. We have a multiplication, right? We have a multiplication, and we have parentheses, right? I know there's addition and subtraction inside the parentheses, but there's parentheses here. So if you're going backwards, the first stop is actually the multiply, divide. Then the last step is parentheses. That's why it's a little different here. So the first thing we want to do is actually take care of the multiply dividing. It's 4 times something, so divide both sides by 4. You got 1 equals, and inside the parentheses doesn't change, negative 8 plus k. Then you can take care of the parentheses and solve that, so that's just going to be adding both sides. So it's still 2 steps. It's still multiply, dividing, and subtracting. It's just in a different order because of parentheses being there. You have to do it in a different order. Now, there's another way of doing it that's longer, but still gives you the same answer. And that's like distributive property. 4 times negative 8, 4 times k, and then we got to do 2 steps here, and then you got to add to both sides. That's 3 steps. Then you got to divide both sides. That's 4 steps. So there's a longer way of doing it that gets the same answer, but this is a 2-step method that always works as well when you have the parentheses. And since this is number 2, it's an even, I don't need to do a check. Okay. You could always do a mental check and just say, okay, answer is 9. 9 minus 8 is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. It's correct. So you can know, like in a few seconds, whether it's right or not by just mentally doing a check. So later on, there's a lot of practice of these 2-step equations like this. Okay. So that's multiplication, negative 4 times n plus 3, so divide by negative 4 both sides. Okay. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1. And negative 92 divided by negative 4 is positive 23. 2 negatives divided by negative positive, and then finish it up. Missing number is 20. Now, if you haven't noticed this about checks, checks are basically the same problem backwards. You know that expression, we're going to check it forward and backward to make sure it's right? So you might hear that, before you do something, blah, 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 check it forward and backward. That's what we're doing right here. The check is actually what you just did in reverse. So the last thing you did was to subtract 3 on both sides. The first thing on the check is to add 3. It's just the same thing in reverse. Right? So add 3, you get 23. Okay? The step before that was to divide by -4. The next step on the check is to multiply -4 times 23. So it's the same problem. The check is just really the same problem, forward and backward. That's where that expression comes from. Check it forward and backward, make sure it's right. Same thing with like given directions from this place to another place. If you reverse the directions, you change everything from make a left turn to make a right turn, and you reverse the street names, right? You end up at the same place. It goes backwards and forwards. It's the same directions in reverse will get you back where you started. So it's the same idea here. Check it forward and backwards. Okay, so you work on that for, first finish number 8, right? And then you can do number 9. And if you have enough time, remember it's a short period, if you have enough time, you can start the Khan Academy, but you have all day to do that tomorrow. And then review quiz on Friday. So as you're doing this right now, ask yourself, could you do this by yourself with no help? And do not make the goal to get it done at all costs. So the 5 I don't know how to do, I just find somebody to tell me how to do them. You do not want to do that, because when those questions appear on the quiz, you don't get them right, because you never practiced them. You just wrote it down and say, look, I'm done, let me have a stamp. So if you're looking for an A, you're looking to raise your grade, you have to be concerned if you can do these or not by yourself. You can ask for help when you get stuck, but it's just working towards that goal the whole time.